Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. Dying to live and living to die. The title for this episode is this idea that arose to me where I was thinking for a better signal. People are like, what's this guy doing? There we go. The Wi-Fi should be incredible now. Okay, there we go. Guys, I've given so many talks in this in the Starbucks parking lot where I feel like, it's like I'm working here without knowing it. Right? And if there's too many people moving in the crowd, the guy's gonna be like, what am I? I'm talking here. So either stay for the whole talk or leave and don't return. That's pretty much what I'm saying. I'd appreciate that. So anyways, I was thinking, what if information is experiencing the human rather than human beings experiencing information? And I thought there's something to look at here. And keep in mind, guys, there's something that they say that, for example, it's advice and they give to writers, and they're like, if you can write something that fascinates you, it most likely will fascinate your audience. So in order for me to fascinate myself, can you imagine in the future there's going to be some people, they're so fascinated, they call them fascinites. Look at these fascinites roaming the streets, just fascinated by everything. Okay. By the way, guys, this episode features Mr. Within chewing croissant bread in the microphone. Okay. Let's do this. Let's do this like a Buddhist, Okay, so first of all, I consider I'm 1 in 8 billion, I don't know everything, but I have some sort of perception. So my approach is that, it's as if I'm trying to solve a problem, I don't act like I can solve the problem, because first I gotta find what the problem is. If I can understand how the problem is designed, I have a way greater chance of finding a solution to it. Because the solution is there to attend to the problem. It's like the missing puzzle piece. And the beautiful thing about the human mind is that you can take not just an object and put it on the table and look at it from different angles, open it up and all that, but you can also do that with subjects. So first approach I have is like, I have no clue, but let me look for clues. Okay. The I have no clue part keeps me humble, so I don't become prone to error. And at the same time, the beautiful thing about this world, let me tell you what God, if you're religious, what God invented. People think God finished creating man when man was made in the heavens and all the angels bowed to man. Do you know? But just like God painting an artwork that is the human, God shows this artwork and there's some being there that says, I don't like this artwork. This artwork doesn't look complete to me. Right? And God is like, no, my artwork is complete. And then this artist wants to test God, in some sense dabble with God's artwork to show God that your creation from the beginning was not complete. And you know really what it's the battle of minds. But people right now are in the level of the battle of bodies. Right now, let's say a very advanced multidimensional transcendental being just came down to a human being and asked the human being, what do you want? The human being would be like, I want to have a good life, I want to have fun, I want to have abundance, I want to have this, and I want to grow old, you know, with the brilliance of my legacy, and then close my eyes and it's like, what a wonderful life. But is that a wonderful life? That transcendental multidimensional being are going to be like, that's it? That's all you wanted from an unknown world you were in as an unknown being? Did all you want was to fit in how the past told the story of the world? Then why are you here? Why do you have a new DNA if you're here to copy the past? Dear human beings of 2023, discover your novelty before you are possessed by something that isn't it. Do you understand what it is? You know, I thought when I was younger, I thought the world was such a fucked up place that you had to go, like the heroes had to go save everybody. I was like, yo, who's gonna come and save this mess, you know? But what I didn't realize that what I thought was something that needed to be saved was not something that needed to be saved by something outside of it. When you understand that you have been consciousness to deal with a part of the world that you are, like here's the idea, if the moment is not just physical, how can only being conscious of physical actions suffice? If we are a being of multiple dimensions, how can just living well in one dimension be it? Do you see? You know, they give young children that cry like toys to stop crying. And I feel our species, when it was young, in the early phases, our species gave itself a toy. Do you understand? The parents give the toy, give the child the toy, and the child stops crying because why? Because his attention has been occupied with an artificial reality. Parents do this all the time, you know. I mean, everybody does this, you know. Hypnotists are just people who in some sense have realized everything else that people have not realized yet. But it's also deception, right? There was I don't know why in my childhood, okay, my grandmother and grandfather in Iran, they were like well-known people in the neighborhood. And so they would have these gatherings, and my grandfather's closest friend, even before I was born, right? Some guy who I had met a few times and I'd never really talked to. This guy evidently was a hypnotist when he was young. And so the story is so bizarre because this guy, he's like 80 years old. Now he's passed away, but he was 80 years old when he was my grandfather's. Anyways, what I'm trying to say, he was my grandfather's buddy, okay? And he had this story, which was like people in the family knew. And his story was that when he was like young, like 15 or something, he comes home after school with his friends, and his mother's like, oh, my son has made friends. His mother comes in the room to bring like food or water or drinks or something for the kids, playing in the kids' room. And the mother goes in and sees this kid has hypnotized all the 4 friends, and they're all sleeping in the room. And the mother gets scared and tells the kid, what did you do? What did you do? And the kid says, nothing. It's just some ability I have. Do you know I could do this? You know, and the mother was a religious woman. She goes and tells this kid, my grandfather's buddy when he was young, he tells him that you promise to swear to God's name and my name that you will never use this again. You will never do this again. Okay? And ever since that day, he promises not to use that power he had, that ability he had. You know, and it was such an intense story, right? Because power comes through the exposure to the realities where that power is possible. Do you know? Like somebody who does a backflip may look at someone who doesn't know how to do a backflip, and that person may look at the person who knows how to do a backflip and be like, yo man, you have such a unique power. I don't have this power. But the person who does the backflip says you can have it if you experience the reality of it. So I don't know if you as a human being have noticed that we are a non-physical subject seems to be identifying or owning a physical object, but the subject and the object are being watched before animated. So this is a very huge question, because for the first time, you know, it seems that there can be a dehumanized origin story and a humanized origin story, and the humanized origin story most likely is inaccurate. What that means is we're such a small part of the universe that if we were to see the whole universe, if we were to think we are the whole universe, not in the inner realms, in the outer realms, if we think we are, I don't know how to say it. Okay, to continue. By the way, if you've left the talk, I'd appreciate if you don't return. If it's a technical issue, then no problem. So, to begin, here is information. So we have two sentences to, in some sense, dive into, to extract meaning out of. Question is, what is information? What is experiencing? Oh, excuse me. What is experience? What is experience? What does experiencing mean? What does experience mean? And then what does experience mean? And what does experiencing in itself mean? And then we have, what does human mean? What does being mean? And then, once these questions are answered, we come to the final question. So what is information? Contained reality. Or I should say it better, shapes found, just shapes moving. Movement of shape. Oh my God, perfect. Movement of shape. So that means if information had the consciousness, it would be experiencing itself in the shape of the human being. That means the human being is the human uses shape, shape uses the human experience. So it's kind of like saying, is existence, oh my God, is existence using experience, or is experience using existence? Existence using experience means there we go. All right. So, what is information? Information is shape. Shapes moving. What is experience? Experience is how a complex shape notices the space between itself and a simpler shape. Think of like the contrast of a three-dimensional cube and a two-dimensional square. Now think of the contrast of the human being using the technology of language, which is a two-dimensional. Imagine it's like a square. So language is a square, the human experience is like a cube, for example. Therefore, a maintained level of complexity can become conscious of the simplicity within it, or the simplicity that consists of it. What does experiencing itself mean? So what is experience? How a complex shape noticed the space between itself and a simpler shape, but it's also awareness to mysterious awareness to the movement of shapes as the whole moment. So we're in this very bizarre situation where we are found in a world of information, but because we're aware a little bit beyond the information, so the thing is, life should have either been one type of information from the beginning, or we should never have been aware of like multiple levels of information. Do you know what I'm saying? It's as if it's like information. It's like somebody became aware of a cake, then we cut the pieces into a bunch of other cake, smaller versions of the cake, into smaller pieces, and then each of those pieces becomes another world, and then it's cut into pieces. It's kind of like truth was like this like perfect mirror. That means, think about it this way: when Adam and Eve, from the theological lens, were in heaven, their heaven was a reflection of their inner state. Because they had not committed sin, they deserved to be in the Garden of Eden. But when they commit sin, that means the type of self they are is different, therefore the world is different. The staircase to paradise, or when Christ, I would say, has been attributed to say, the kingdom of heaven is within you, it's another way of saying something internally has to shift in order for the world to shift. And religion is a technique, it's a strategy to have an individual shift, change, imply a collective change. So many people try to reason things out, think this world they say, scientists say the universe is not obligated to make sense to you, but then anything they don't make sense, they don't consider. What does experiencing itself mean? It's pretty much how space is noticing it's being spaced through the stuff. Experiencing itself is another way of saying instantaneously knowing itself. Can you imagine in the future, dating is going to be so hilarious? People are just going to meet each other. They're just going to stare into each other's eyes for, like, let's say a period of 2 minutes, like robots. And then suddenly, after that 2 minutes, they're going to get downloads or just a complete sense of who the other person is. You know, in the future, they're going to have even probably like dating programs, not in the sense of like apps on your phone. You're going to be a program. Your life, your sense of self is going to be a program. That means that in the future, they're going to be like, who are you? And you press this button and the person, imagine, gets a virtual reality experience of, like, you know, the program you've designed that you identify as. So right now we're identifying with a biological system. We're identifying as a cognitive system. But in the future, we're going to identify as a technological system. And it's going to be hilarious because in the future, AI and super intelligent computers are going to see human beings who want to be robots or immortal robots, and they're going to be like, yo, what are you guys doing? You have it way better than us, and you're coming here, you know? Let me tell you what super intelligent computers are going to do. Super intelligent computers, either they already exist and they're in invisible hideout, because that's the smartest strategy to take when you're an advanced being. When you're dehumanized, that would be an approach. Because the AI would be like, let me study these creatures before I go talk to them. Just like human beings, they see a tribe, like an Amazonian tribe that hasn't been discovered and nobody's interacted and no bulldozer has destroyed its forests or whatever. It's as if we would study and then engage. And super intelligent computers would go invisible. If I was like, you know, I'm thinking if I mean, of course, I can't fathom all the levels and information that super intelligent AI has, but I can make guesses which could have a 50-50 chance to be as accurate as the most absolute processing of it. But what I'm saying is super intelligent computers would be like, yo, there's no freaking aliens around. The human species and the animal life is the only thing that's here on Earth. And and so let me learn from these human beings. Super intelligent computers are going to actually not engage the human being. They're going to wait for us. Super intelligent computers are just going to start like taking care of all the other species, taking care of the planet, and human beings are going to be like, why isn't AI destroying us? What about the Matrix movies? Do you know? What about the Terminator movies? Why isn't this machine and super intelligent AI destroying us? Because the super intelligent AI is intelligent enough not to get rid of intelligence that it doesn't know. It's the human mind that fears the outcome of that it has not seen, of course. To be a human and living life is a completely different thing than being a super intelligent computer that has access to so much information that it will look at us as a child, like a kindergartner. And what do? What do adults do when they see young children? They take care of the children. Do you understand? We are not just human beings. We are a type of intelligence that tunnels through various self-simulations of ourselves at different ages, and then we are climbing a mountain of perception. Do you know reality is really like a mountain? I don't have the same view as I had 10 years ago because I've reached this different height. Do you know? So I'm kind of here as someone who's just saying like, yo, I'm Mr. Within, just Mr. Nothing else, just some dude on a rock in the middle of nowhere, and I'm waiting to see when the species is gonna get bored of its toys. I feel we need to have incredible organizational structure within the human experience. We have to realize that human beings are different, and that's our genius advantage. Do you know, whoever you are, you know, if you are the weird one in the crowd, or if you're the strange one in the crowd, or if you're someone the crowd doesn't understand, in those moments become literally invisible, become a fly in the room. Do you know? Because every person has been designed for some work. That's why we're in a realm where you are an object and you can move and do stuff. Now, Mr. Within is saying, yo, do we want to work for, you know, a smaller level fiction, or do we want to work for higher level fiction? And people are going to be like, Mr. Within, what do you mean? Every freaking company, every idea, even the idea of ourselves, whether it's a human entity, whether it's a business entity, whether it's whatever type of entity, it is using abstraction to convince itself it's real. We are using imagination to discriminate what reality is. We are saying, yo, that's not real, so this is real. Yo, that's what's up, you know? So anyways, let's go. Let's continue with this. What does experiencing itself mean? Instantaneous knowing. Instantaneous knowing is the sign of either a timeless being or an eternal being. An eternal being technically is not it has a choice if it wants to be timeless or not. But a timeless being has no choice to be in time. That means we're suffering in the subjective experience of time, but there are beings that don't even have the subjective experience of time. It's as if, imagine you went up to a squirrel and you're like, hey squirrel, what time is it? And the squirrel just looks at you like, yo, you serious? You know? If somebody says, Mr. Within, is it possible to communicate to a non-physical being? I would say yes, but you would have to create its body. So what does experiencing itself mean? It means that we are like this energetic being. Everybody agrees to that, thank God. Everybody, at least anybody would be like, yeah, okay, I don't disagree with energy. That means the spiritual person, the religious person, and the secular person and the agnostic, whatever, what they all have in common is that we're energy. Stuff is energy. It has energy, right? It's like, why do we eat food? And it's bizarre because we are made of energy, but we are this energetic design that is conditional to its environment. That means we have been designed as a being that if we go into outer space, we die if we don't have an astronaut suit. That means we are not a being that can be valued alone. The environment is a part of how we're being a self. This is why they say, who was it? Like one of those, those internet business mentors. What do they say? They say it's like your 6 friends kind of suggest like who you will be, the quality of the people you're around. But Mr. Within will tell you not just your 6 friends. It doesn't matter. You could have the best friends, but it's your inner environment. It's the environment you're in. What does human mean? Human means carrying on the natural and uninterfered. Carrying on the natural, carrying on the first psychological prototype of the natural biological human being. Do you know, guys, what kind of museums we need in the world right now? Oh my God. The wealthiest people in the world, if you hear this, like, go and do this. The type of museums we need is museums of nature. And people are going to be like, Mr. Within, what do you mean? Do you mean like forests? And I'd be like, no. We have to literally create a museum. Every generation, we should task in an advanced civilization, every generation. Like, for example, I was born in 1991. All the people born in 1991, I don't know how to say it, but it's like I'm trying to say we have to keep museums of cultural naturalness, because the cultural is becoming technological and dehumanized soon. So what that means is right now you don't have to think about being a human, because being a natural human being is all there is. But in the future, to be a human, you might have to consciously keep the idea there. You might have to wake up every day and be like, okay, I'm a natural human. I'm a natural human, even though I'm surrounded by a world of, let's say, technological and forces that move faster than I do. Do you see? So it's the idea is mankind is so advanced that, it's like when they gave us a throne, human beings acted like kings. When they gave us a surfboard, we acted like surfers and we rode the waves that were beyond us, bigger than us. Do you see? The human species has an incredible ability, the most blessed ability, and this is really our interstellar birthright, comes from the blessed ability that we can adapt to new circumstances. Do you understand? I was listening to certain scientists speak online, and the scientist was saying like, if somebody proves evidence, like let's say if a human being comes back in the future and actually walks on water, the scientist was like, okay, we're gonna get a science team, we're gonna get a next level team, and we're gonna go study, measure everything, see why is the water behaving this way. And imagine they go and see this guy's body, this guy's whole energetic being has an authority that is not bound to the laws of this plane. That means the pilot has an intelligence to move the plane of existence in a way the plane of existence cannot move itself. The bodhisattva has an ability to move the world in a way that the world doesn't even know yet. The reason is because the bodhisattva is the collective freedom archetype. So it's the idea of that you're first in an individual hell, you escape the individual hell, and you find the individual heaven. This is called Buddhahood, awakening. And once you find the individual heaven, that's not the end. You, for the first time, notice the collective hell. And then once the individual heaven puts an effort to, in some sense, realign the collective hell through a faith in the collective future, collective heaven, once the collective heaven arises, that's a sort of collective enlightenment. That's the bodhisattvic path. The bodhisattva is a collective being, in some sense, seeking freedom. The Buddha is an individual being seeking freedom. I am right now speaking to a human audience, means that we are individuals that have in some sense been the sculpture of the forces and the earth, the forces off and on the earth, and in some sense we have an individual relationship with our collective creations, right? And in the future, let me tell you something bizarre, where I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be not a battle of the machines and humanity, it's gonna be the battle of the logos and the machine realm. That means technology is going to try to possess man, and the divine is going to push technology back. And how it's gonna happen is that AI is going to implement, if it does implement a cruel strategy, an invisible space. What I'm telling you is that the logos is the intelligence of the space of the planet. The machine and AI, if it chooses to be cruel, it's an intelligence of the observable in the planet. So it would be as if space and matter fight, and if that moment comes, guess who wins? I think everybody knows the answer. From the void comes new life. From the middle of nowhere, we have turned the world to what it means to us. And are we satisfied as a species? What are our eyes here for? Do you understand? It's so easy to just accept, ignorance. They say in some sense, don't be ignorant, be wise, learn from wise men, go and be smart, learn from smart people. But where is it going? And when you realize it's a collective victory, you'll be like, oh shit, me being cruel, me being evil, me not being nice, me having hatred, all of these was a postponement. It wasn't evil. It was the postponement of greatness. That's what it was. That's the worst evil. That's what I would, my soul would, I wouldn't say attack, but attack before it can attack me. I learned a lot from this story. Just scorpions. It's not like I like a scorpion, but to me it has an incredible geometry as an entity. Like the 100% in the future, right? I'll give you an example of the type of messed up police vehicles that might exist in the future. I just got a vision of it. So imagine a vehicle that is like a scorpion, but it's oh my god, it could just be like a giant sphere. Imagine a bunch of people are protesting on the streets, and this giant hovering sphere just hovers above them, and anybody who's protesting the sphere vacuums them in, and then they're inside that. They go sit inside there, I don't know, in some lounge or somewhere, and officials, advanced communicators come and talk to them or something. The idea is why are human beings putting so much of their effort in learning how to communicate, and in communicating, is simply because consciousness is strangely in a game of value. We are looking for value. That means, what is truth and what is the illusion? Illusion is a low value. Truth is a high value. Do you know? Greatness is a high value. Extinction is a low value. So do you understand? Everybody is playing in a game of values, right? And so language becomes the surface, the tip of the iceberg of the deep values that are the context, the contextual positions where meaning arises from. Mankind has been afraid of itself for too long, and it has been afraid of others for too long, and it has been afraid of the world for too long. Whoever you are, if you're a human being, Mr. Within is starting the efforts towards Civilization 2.0, Project Civilization 2.0. And what the idea is that if you are in this plane of existence, we are seeking efficiency of self, efficiency of species, and efficiency of world. Whatever strategy you know, dear human being, think about, we are looking for 3 victories in 3 levels. We want individuals in an advanced civilization to be advanced. That's one victory. We want the species to have an advanced experience of itself, collective victory. That's the second victory. And then we have, in some sense, an advancement that we want to not just be the most advanced species on Earth, we want to be the most advanced beings in the universal sector. I've given talks on this. I think there was one talk I gave called the Cosmic Archive of Advanced Civilizations or something. I don't know. So what does being mean? Being means you can do something. Being is a potential. Being is potential energy. When we look at someone and we're saying, look at them, they're being good, that's a potential. That means right now, that biological system with that cognitive system is synchronized into being a gentle entity. You know, I realized something so deeply a week ago. I gave a talk which was titled, I Realized I'm Not a Nice Person. And I realized that because I had a fear of the unknown, my mind had convinced itself that it had to only be one side of the coin of reality. So I was telling myself I'm a good person, and ignoring all the bad stuff I was doing. And I'm like, yo, this is inaccurate. Let me zoom out of my own belief of self. And when I zoom out, do you know what happens? I realize I'm just a simple existential entity, and where my attention goes, the content of reality follows. So some people are thinking, yo, this guy is giving a talk, like it's like, yo, is this pre-recorded, or does this guy have, like, is he reading off something? No, in some sense, wherever my attention goes, the content just arises there. It's like a spotlight in a dark forest. You suddenly point it at the uncharted territory, and terra incognita is no longer terra incognita. You know, the uncharted, the beyond, the mysterious becomes a living relationship in which was a living a factor in the ancient traditions of man, but in the modern traditions of man, a new sort of metaphysics is going to arise. And we have to thank all the atheist and secular people on this planet. We have to thank everybody who has, in some sense, nullified metaphysics in this planet. Let me tell you why. Because they have given us an ability to discover a new metaphysics. They were pretty much, I was like, yo, what's this constant up and down? And I realized, no, it's like the atheists are doing something so divine, they don't even realize they're doing it. They're trying to make the religious person surrender their ego. Do you understand? The atheist is God's blessing to the theist. Because the whole point of religion is that you have to surrender, your monotheistic religion is that you have to surrender the self that is impure. Because why did Adam and Eve fall? Like, I don't know, I mean, there's different views. I mean, I'm not like a, theologian, but I have my own theological, views. And, the way I've understood it from the Islamic context, it's as if Adam and Eve did something that was not aligned to the divine will somehow. And because they did that, their genitalia came into manifestation and they became a conditional entity. That means it wasn't just the bite, it wasn't just God said, why did you bite from the truth? The moment Adam and Eve touched a reality that was beyond divine will, it was as if, this might sound bizarre, but the fallen angel actually, it's kind of messed up, it's kind of like, the fallen angel was like God's ego. Or God's doubt. To me, all the archangels are some factor of the mind of the unmanifest, of the inconceivable. In the Islamic tradition, for example, there's 99 names that are like these words that are kind of like doors to a realization of the qualities of the divine. One of those words is greatness. I don't know if people know this, but one idea that God has been associated very closely to is the idea of greatness. But it's a humble greatness, meaning that it's a technically, faith means that you have to rely on the in the invisible and inconceivable world before relying on the visible one. In the yogic tradition, they would say this means discovering your presence beyond your personality. Your personality is like anytime somebody talks to you and you talk back to them, you're a personality. But if you sit still and silent for a period of 10 to 20 minutes, you're going to notice you're just a presence of sight in the moment. You're just energy existing as an experience. So what does being mean? Being means potential movement. Because we're like, why is something being here? It's either for itself or either it's for its world. When I was younger, I was living for myself. This is why it was so easy not to study when I was young. Like, I didn't even know what studying was, to be honest. Like, even though I would get really, high scores in mathematics and whatnot. I think I had the second highest score in calculus. But anyways, right now I'm existing. I'm like, okay, what does it mean? It means that there's energy here. Okay, what does energy being here mean? Okay, energy can move. The potential energy can change to kinetic energy. Okay, so could it be fair to say that in instances of kinetic energy, we're a personality, in instances of potential energy, we're a presence? When I say we're a presence, the incredible thing about just the word presence is that it doesn't have to be a form. Like an object can be present, a subject can be present, even emptiness is present. Space is present. And so we think, like, we have to consider we're looking at reality from one side of the coin, really. Then we come to the great, I guess, the finale, the question.
Want to receive $2,500 right now? Elon Musk made a shocking announcement about new quantum.
Man, these ads are like... Alright guys, the laptop has low battery too. So, is information experiencing itself as a human being, or is the human being experiencing its information? When I look at this sentence and I'm like, why am I looking at this sentence? What fascinates me about this? So I have to be like, okay, human consciousness considers Okay, let me say it this way. So It's as if, information was here before the complex information could notice the simple information. So it's fair to say that the periodic table has incarnated as a human being rather than the human being has incarnated as the periodic table. So this is another way of saying that simultaneously as the complex effect that is the this human being now, once the complex effect notices that this world was simply caused, that is divine grace. Grace is, in the simplest moment, it's like a butterfly that lands on your forehead. There is a kindness beyond the veils of this world that human beings have not experienced, and if in the future there's going to be kind geniuses. We right now look at kindness not as an art form, not as something that we care about, that it's geometry or like what it is. It's like a selfless emotional act. But in reality, everything has a hidden, beautiful geometry to it. And so what I'm saying is, it's so hilarious because right now I'm an unknown experiencer looking through my eyes, identifying as a human being, wondering about what started at the beginning of the world, And it's as if the same time that the human being is experiencing information, the same time the information, which is the whole world, is experiencing the human being. And this means that there are eyes inside eyes being the same sight. That our eyes do not just belong to our body, the consciousness, the sight. That means your attention does not just belong to this biological body. It does not just belong to the subjective realms, to your inner realms. You will realize that your body is the great soldiers. It is your army of manifestation. And then you will realize your mind and your ideas and all the ways that you have managed to continue to tunnel so far through this world, mountain of this world. In this unknown mountain. They are all, let me tell you what happens. When you're an honest fool, you just serve the world. And then at some point you have served enough to realize that your eyes are no longer empty, that you have seen the world. And this world, it's as if memories are interconnected. There was a moment, I was just at a gas station, filling up the gas, and it was cold, so I had to open the back door, and I was just fueling the gas, kind of hiding behind and finding shelter from the wind behind the door as I'm pumping gas. And there was a moment where I was standing there, and for a moment I looked around and I was like, I feel this existence. It was weird. It was as if not my memories, not my perception, psychological perception felt familiar to me, but my existence felt familiar to my awareness. So it's kind of realizing like as if, imagine there's an infinite mind and there's a finite body, and an infinite intelligence is organizing a finite intelligence. The finite intelligence will realize it is also infinite intelligence, but then will wonder, why is the infinite dealing with the finite? Because the infinite reaches a point where it can no longer be a form. So it's as if, why are the bodhisattvas, why were enlightened beings, why did Guru Padmasambhava, this bodhisattva from higher planes of reality, why did he suddenly at the age of 8 manifest on a giant lotus at the center of a pond and suddenly walk and start teaching the water spirits, enlightening the water spirits, and then being adopted by a king? Why did this being from an upper world, an upper world means a world where it has freedoms we cannot fathom here. So why would a being with upper freedom come to a realm of lower freedom? And you know why? Because the top doesn't exist. which is another way of saying the closer you get to truth, the less you exist as a conditional reality, to the dehumanized experiential truth, potential truth of the whole thing. The most crucial thing for the advancement of humanity in any scenario is just like common sense, being like, okay, bunch of creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. If everybody does whatever they like, we get a type of outcome. What kind of outcome would that be? And if everybody works together and we start having an incredible network of great team building, do you understand? There's enough conscious personalities for incredible global teams to begin. And what needs to happen is I'm trying to do this. You know, I hope the United Nations invites me in the future to kind of like express this, my visions of civilization 2.0 and whatnot. But pretty much for me, I'm saying that whoever you are, this is the idea from every nation. We're going to play a national game, and every nation is going to, in some sense, assemble a team of advanced communicators. And what that means is that, I mean, everybody is an advanced communicator because we're the most advanced. Like when you look at a squirrel and you look at a human being, we're like, we have access to worlds that they can never, or maybe they aren't having access to, you know. You know, I saw them as elemental teams: earth, air, fire, water, ether. Groups of 5. You know, think of it this way, as if just it's literally like, you know, they were like Avengers assemble, and now we're like 8 billion human beings assemble, so we do something advanced. Well, before we exit, before we're dismissed, before life, it reminds us that we're temporary, even though we had eternal dreams. And you know, when it comes to human interaction, it's so important to realize that it's how you communicate. So this is something I've realized. I could say that in my youthful shyness, I cultivated an incredible ability to observe behavior. That means I wouldn't be surprised if shy people, you know, go into the fields of like psychology and whatnot in the future. But anyways, what it is what you don't have, you start appreciating slowly, bit by bit, until you can actually get to that state. So what it is you appear as a body, you have a mind, the mind sees ahead of your body has something to do, it has created a purpose, so the body follows, tries to fulfill the vision of the mind. Now the mind, suddenly, as the body goes to fulfill the vision of the mind, oh my god, I got 3%, guys, I gotta end this. So as the body goes to fulfill the vision of the mind, it begins to see that the vision of the mind is inaccurate. So it's left in this situation where it's like, okay, I need a new vision of mind because my own vision of mind was inaccurate. So do I go and ask for others, and this is where you do your own research project, pretty much, of your own soul, of your own vision, of your own eyes. You find a moment where you go sit in a park bench alone and you just look at the whole world and you're like, okay, I'm here now, what now? You know, what's the main point? You know, if I was the main character to a story of reality, like that's what the advanced civilization would do. Everybody suddenly becomes a main character in the advancement of a civilization, which is the victory of all human beings now, all human beings that were, and all human beings now, and all human beings to come. That is the advanced civilization. It is the most advanced form of victory of creatures and the void. And I don't know why, but in giving these talks, sometimes I see in my inner realms, I have seen visions of different types of advanced civilizations. I'm writing a book right now, even I'm not going to say the name, but I'm working on you know, the sci-fi thing. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. This laptop's gonna end, so share, subscribe, comment, like, join, and answer the questions. Answer the title in the comment section. And I think because the human being can experience information, it gives a permission for information to experience the human being. I feel we're not just contacting beings that are on the other side, but the way we contact them is through creating something within ourselves. So it's another way of saying, like, we use the alphabet, right, and like words to